This is the Ballin' Out Podcast, your weekly breakdown of Red Raider basketball from Double T 97.3 and Double T Sports Network.com.
Hello, my fellow Red Raider fans, basketball in particular. It's the Gaslighters. Alongside Rob Breaux, I'm Chois, Woodman. This podcast number, whatever.
Sure.
There's a number next to it somewhere.
Yeah.
But we are getting deeper and deeper into Big 12 play, and Texas Tech is stacking up wins. 5 in a row. Kudos, young Rob, as you called this a long time ago. We don't get a lot of things right in the sports radio world, so we'll celebrate it when we do. And Rob said there would be a 5-game winning streak when he looked ahead at this particular stretch of games, and we're there with 5 in a row for Texas Tech, which puts the Red Raiders into the top 25 as they debuted in the polls this week, or the AP poll. We're already in the coaches poll. This is a really good basketball team we've got in Lubbock right now.
Yeah, just on the rankings, you have Houston this weekend. Obviously, we'll talk about Oklahoma State and TCU in this podcast before we get to Houston, but even just playing Houston won't affect the rankings unless, they beat you like 30, like they've beaten a lot of teams. I don't think that'll happen, but you're in a good spot to play this weekend and then get into Baylor and the game next Saturday and move forward. So you're in a really good spot, and I saying bold things on the radio and in podcasts sometimes doesn't work because people remember that and they'll bring it up 6 years from now that once you said this.
Sure.
But every once in a while you're right, and you just look at the schedule that Texas Tech had and how they had played against those Utah schools, even the comeback against UCF. You kind of felt like they were figuring some things out. And then they played really well against Iowa State and lost. And it just felt like they were going to put something together. And, I said I didn't think Arizona was that good. Well, they haven't lost since either.
They've been pretty good.
So,
which only helps Tech in the net and those sorts of things.
Maybe they have 2 losses, but I don't think they do. I think they just have 1 loss.
I think you're right. It's just the one.
So
because they had the half-court heave by Caleb Love when they should have lost to Iowa State, but came back and won that one in overtime.
So Arizona's very good, and that was a very good win. And I think Oklahoma State played you really well.
Yeah.
Let's go back to that game first. I was really impressed with Oklahoma State's defense. I thought they really challenged Texas Tech at the perimeter. A lot of trapping and pushing and forcing Texas Tech to make some passes, some skip passes, and you missed some shots too. So that was a close game.
Yeah.
Until the end. Until the end of both halves. You kind of stretched it out in both halves. That was a tied game in the second half. I think it was 27-27. So I thought Oklahoma State played you well.
Yeah.
And you didn't play your best game and you beat them.
I think that's exactly right. And you've continued to win in a variety of ways. And that's definitely a mark of a good team. You're winning without some of your best players, or you did that against TCU. That's a mark of a good team. And of course, being able to win when you just don't have your best day is something that good teams do. I think this team is showing a lot of good signs, but we'd be remiss if we're not starting on the defensive side of the ball, because that is where this team has turned an absolute corner. That's what has taken this team from a good team to a potentially great team, is how good they're playing on the defensive side of the ball. Are there still easy baskets here and there? Yes. But one of the Achilles heels of Texas Tech basketball in recent history has just been giving up too many open threes. You haven't done that. There's an occasional one here and there, but Tech has run teams off the three-point line, and because of an inside presence from Federico and JT Toppin, you're able to defend inside pretty well. I think this is a lineup that goes deep on the offensive side, obviously, and that's what people want to talk about because that's a little sexier. But how deep you are defensively is why you're winning games like you did against Oklahoma State in an ugly one, and again against TCU where you hold them down to 57 points.
Let's go to TCU. JT Toppin had 1 rebound against Oklahoma State, and you didn't
That was
really
weird.
rebound particularly well. I thought Oklahoma State, again, played really well defensively. JT Toppin felt like he had something to prove against TCU. He played really hard. Maybe that's because Darian Williams is out, and McCasland maybe in the pregame said something to the effect of, hey, you guys have to step up because Darian's not on the floor. And I thought 2 guys did in particular in Kerwin Walton, who I thought played his best game of the year.
Yeah.
And do you need something? Yes.
What do you need, bro?
I'm really sorry. Rachel's in the lobby.
Okay, tell her I'll be with her in a little bit.
Alright.
Thank you. We'll tell
Okay.
Josh.
So
Cut it.
6.5. 6.5 to 7.5. And I thought 2 players played really well in his absence, in Darren Williams' absence. And that's JT Toppin and obviously Kerwin Walton. Kerwin Walton had his best game, I think, as a Red Raider this season, maybe since the opener when he hit a bunch of threes.
Yeah.
And it wasn't only just him making shots. I thought he played pesky defense.
Agreed? Yep.
Was sticking his hand into places. And this season, Kerwin Walton has been stagnant, I think, offensively. He catches it. If he's not open, he passes it. And he was putting the ball on the floor and driving in and kicking it out. And I thought that really helped the offense that got pretty stale there in the second half and a stretch in the first.
Yeah, I think Kerwin and Grant McCasland praised him a ton in the post-game presser after the TCU game. But Kerwin epitomizes what it takes to have a good team unit. I think you have a lot of talent on this particular group, but I think Kansas State has a lot of talent as well. I think they do. I just think you have a ton of chemistry because of guys like Kerwin Walton. Because a guy like that who had a huge role or a big role last year and is able to take a step back in a slump, mind you, it's not Tech choosing for him to take a step back. He's been slumping some. But for him to still be the same guy and still be the same leader on this team allows you to do what you want to do. And you know, shifting here a little bit, Rob, you guys got a question on the end of the bench the other day of are there any comparisons you can draw between Texas Tech of 2019 and the 2025 team? And I don't think there's a ton of individual. There are some individual comparisons when you're going personnel-wise, but I think as a unit, these two teams are very similar. When you look at where it starts on the defensive end, when this team's been successful, this team is playing really good defense, but you do have a bunch of chemistry. This team seems to mesh really well like that team did. You've got a good mixture of young players and older players. I'm not telling you to buy your tickets for the Final Four, though you might. It's always cheaper at this time of year.
Yeah, it's in San Antonio.
Yeah, and they usually always resell very well.
Yeah.
So advice there. But this is a team that if they ended up in San Antonio, I would not be overly shocked. I mean, anybody getting to the Final Four is a tough thing to do. But this is a team that seems to have all the right pieces. And if you get a good draw in the tournament, and we're a long ways away from that. But if you're comparing the two teams, this is the most similar team that you've had on campus since that 2019 team.
You know, I think we'll learn a lot about Texas Tech this weekend against Houston.
Agreed.
If you're a premier team, because I think they are the premier team in the Big 12.
Yep.
But if you look at the other two premier teams in the Big 12, just in conference play, because Arizona was not good pre-conference.
Yeah.
If you look at what Texas Tech did against Iowa State, a bucket away.
Yep.
And then they dominated Arizona in the last 5 minutes. Dominated.
Sure.
And they made Arizona fold like a cheap plastic chair in the backyard.
Okay.
And I was sitting in it, right? And that's what Texas Tech did to Arizona.
Okay.
Just absolutely cracked them.
Yeah.
So,
But that's been a common thing at the end of games right now. You look at these stretches and it's 0 for 8, 1 for 7. Like these stretches at the end of basketball games, Texas Tech is forcing teams into huge droughts or they've been in some themselves, but you've been able to force teams not to score at the end of games. It's almost an extra buckle down, and that's where you've seen these leads stretch out. A lot of these games have been 2 to 4 point games down the stretch, and then you get into the final 6 to 8 minutes, and Tech just clamps down on teams and goes and wins it.
Line open at 15. Closed at 11.5.
Yeah.
It was 14.5 right after the opening.
Yeah.
You're up 15. I think they had a dumb foul.
Oh,
you shot free throws to get to 15.
To,
you were up 14. You made one of your free throws.
They tried to steal the ball, and the ref does. I don't know that there was a foul there, but he's like, we're not letting them do this.
Yeah.
I mean, they tried to steal the ball with 2 seconds left.
And then they airmailed a pass and dunked it. And that's the kid.
Make it 14.
That's the kid this week that said he was going to write a book about his experience at TCU.
Manning?
Yeah. Did you see that? He wants to write a book about his experience as a student athlete at TCU and how, I guess, it's not been good. So, interesting. You still have to play them again in Fort Worth and maybe get an Upra dunk at the end to
I'd be okay with that. Let's do it.
All right, Houston.
Yeah.
Just quickly, do you expect to keep it close? Do you expect to win?
Does number 5 play in this game? That's the question. I do wonder if you take the approach like speaking of those teams of yesteryear, Tech took in the Big 12 tournament that one time up at, or I guess it was before the Big 12 tournament. I think it was at West Virginia, where Keenan sits out. And you're just waving a white flag. I don't know if that's what you do to try to get Darian Williams a little bit healthier and try to go win some of these other games against Baylor at home and at Arizona like you've got next week. So if he doesn't play, I think it's not very pretty. If he does play and is at 75%, I think you've got a pretty good shot at keeping it close. I think Houston is the class of the Big 12 right now. I think they're the best team. But I also think Texas Tech's got the best team to combat Houston that you've had in a few years because of the scoring depth. And Houston,
this is a better matchup than last year for sure.
Absolutely. Houston kicks your butt around defensively for 40 minutes, but Tech can score from 5 positions this year and go 7 or 8 deep. So I think that is what can help keep it close. Whistle matters in these games for sure.
Whistle matters?
It matters. Whistle matters in these games for sure. How tight it is. I mean, there's some bully ball that goes on, just like the old Bob Huggins West Virginia teams. So
if they let you play, you can get in a rhythm. If they don't,
yeah,
the game's going to be ugly.
So
that's what Houston wants.
So I think it is a game that I wouldn't say you got no chance in, but of every game remaining on your schedule, this is by far the hardest and the only one I would probably chalk up as a loss.
3 weeks ago, I predicted 5-0 in a stretch, obviously leading to this game being a loss. A week ago,
oh boy,
I said if you stretched it out against Oklahoma State and won like you should, you did. I said if you stretched it out against TCU and won like you should, you did. I'd extend the streak and have you beating Houston. And by the way, you play Baylor at home next. 7-0 Choice.
Let's go.
A 7-0 run. Let's take it. I don't have any kind of qualms to say that Texas Tech can't compete with Houston. So let's just say you win there. They're due. I believe in the due theory. They're due for a loss. They hadn't lost yet.
I'm in.
Somebody's going to beat Houston. Why not Texas Tech?
Yeah. I'm in. So we'll see if Rob can keep the streak going. Stay right. You guys stay right. Appreciate you tuning in. It's the Gaslighters podcast brought to you by Double T 97.3.
Hit that like button. Hit that subscribe button.
Please do. We love you guys.
This is the Ballin' Out Podcast, your weekly breakdown of Red Raider basketball from Double T 97.3 and DoubleTSportsNetwork.com.